If you have a 401k plan, this is the video for you. There's a lot of costly mistakes that people are making with 401k plans that I want to cover today, and really a lot of myths that you need to stop believing when it comes to these plans. Most people in the United States do carry 401k plans, and most employers do offer them in some method or another, including a company match that you could be privy to. Now, when it comes to retirement savings, this is going to be the biggest account, and for a majority of individuals, this is the biggest and the only account that they have. So let's break these down in the 7 common and costly 401k myths that you have to stop believing. The first one being not taking your money early. Now, with a 401k plan, you can take withdrawals early from here, and it will be classified as a early withdrawal. That means that you could not only have a tax penalty for taking out the money, you could also be privy to a 10% additional penalty on top of that if you're taking money out. Now, of course, there are a few exceptions that do apply, including first-time home buyers, but you want to make sure if you're willing to pay those taxes and fees, you can still and do still have access to the money in your 401k plan. A lot of people think when it comes to a 401k plan, you lock up the money, you can't touch it until you're ready for retirement or 59 and a half, but overall you can with the penalty, and you can even borrow a loan from yourself. Now this, you have to check with your employer, have checked with the 401k plan provider, but you can take out loans yourself with some penalties. Some of them have an interest rate. Some of those do not even consider them a withdrawal. They give you a loan on the balance that you have borrowed, meaning that you can take money out of there without the penalty of actually doing the withdrawal. Second one we look at, you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. For a lot of people, especially if you're compounding interest, if you're compounding the gains in a lot of these retirement accounts, chances are you could be in the exact same tax bracket as you're sitting in today, or you could be in a higher tax bracket depending on exactly how much you're saving. Now this, of course, by historical standards, in the future, tax brackets could change, meaning that, making $50,000 and being in a certain tax bracket today might be a higher tax bracket in that same 50K in the future. Now, of course, there's a couple different places where a lot of people do see higher retirement depending on where they live. When you start taking distributions, when you're required to take them RMDs, now at the age of 73, and exactly how much passive income you have, that is generating wealth for you. Now, again, there could be rate cuts. You could be and have a lower rate environment when you're in the future. Paying less taxes could be something you could see. Next one we look at is 401k plans have almost no fees. Some of those do have fees, including my 401k plan itself. I do have fees with my 401k plan, and of course, can reduce the amount of federal income tax you own. The next one we look at is 401k plans have almost no fees. This is not true. If you look at your 401k plan, including my own, there are fees associated with it. Now, of course, depending on the fees that they charge, could hurt your growth in the future because, of course, contributions are fee from fees, but it doesn't mean that there's monthly fees, there's assessment fees, there's investment fees. A lot of different fees can be associated with 401k plans. 401k plans traditionally are notorious for charging fees. And of course, you have to make sure and look at your investment plan that you have with your provider and see exactly what fees that they do charge. Number 5, we look at you cannot leave your 401k with a former employer. This is not true at all. You can leave it. Now, caveat to this, something to remember is if you leave a company, you have an option to move your 401k. Wherever you're going, you can roll it into an IRA, but some places do have 401k to 401k. You can actually move a 401k plan into another one. Many times you are not required to move the money if it's over a certain amount. I know for our plan specifically, it is over the $5,000 value. So if your 401k plan is over $5,000, you can keep it where it currently is. You don't have to move it, but you also have to make sure that it is managed. So with a lot of 401k plans, we've seen individuals leave companies. That 401k plan is no longer managed, or worst case scenario, we see a 401k plan that is held entirely in cash. It is not invested in the market. It is not invested into anything. It is a plan that is literally just sitting there, meaning there is no growth at all. If you have 100K in it 10 years later, you're going to have 100K in there just like we have. The next one we look at, you cannot contribute to a 401k and a Roth IRA. Again, this is another myth. You can contribute to both, and I do highly recommend contributing into both. Now, of course, the devil is in the details. Our IRS contribution limits in 401ks are much higher than we see with your traditional and your Roth IRAs, but you can make contributions in both of them, and you should. One of the caveats or one of the things to remember with this is when it comes to contributions, you have to know the limits. You also have to know the deduction limits, but you also have to know exactly what you're investing in. If you're putting a lot of money into a 401k because it has the ability and it has those higher contribution limits, and what you're investing in is not worth what you're putting your money in, you really have to know what your investments are, know what kind of growth you're seeing, and know kind of what you expect from that 401k plan. I see a lot of 401k plans that just put everything in target date funds. Now, overall target date funds, when you look in conjunction with S&P 500 or a couple index funds, the target date funds charge a little bit more and they perform a little bit less. We seen and we analyzed everything that I had in my 401k plan, went through with a couple of financial advisors. Really, the target date funds that we had through Vanguard, not worth it at all to continue to contribute in there. So I just go in there and I contribute now to the S&P 500 versus focusing on those target date funds. And I have been doing absolutely phenomenal, especially this year, versus what those target date funds are performing. Now, the second one we look at, 401k loans beat traditional loans. This is not always true. This is really dependent. Getting a loan from your 401k provider or your 401k plan may not be the worst idea in the world, but it is very far from the best. A lot of times with a 401k plan, if you take a loan, they are taking it out of the investment portfolio, which means you are missing the opportunities for that investment growth because they're taking those funds out. Now, a lot of times, in addition, you do pay back those funds on a paycheck contribution. So if you're paid every week or 2 weeks, you will make contributions back into this fund, which if you're taking it out for, let's say, 5 years, for the next 5 years, you could have cash flow problems depending on your situation because you're putting more money back into this 401k to repay the loan that you always do. In addition, a lot of times if you separate from employment, they consider it a withdrawal. They are done with the payments. You're not going to be paying back. You're not working there anymore. They can actually take it and really require either you come up with the money to pay it back in full, or it's going to be a withdrawal from the plan from the 401k. And of course, thinking of the bottom line, when you think about common and costly mistakes for that 401k, contributing to a 401k plan can set you up for retirement. It again is the biggest fund that people do have when it comes to retirement funds. This is the way that people do it. Offers tax incentives if you are doing the traditional route, which I do not recommend. The Roth would be the way that I go. Always can have that employer match if it's available. You want to make sure if they give you 5%, you're putting in that 5% because that is 100% gain on the money that you have in there. Never miss part of that compensation package by not putting money into that 401k. And of course, if you're unsure what to do, talk to your 401k plan provider. Make sure you know all the details in black and white. You can see it. You know exactly what you're investing in, where your money's going to be going, how much you're investing, which I recommend 15%. But of course, that is on a case-by-case basis, depending on what kind of investments they do offer. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.